Welcome to Fresno City Vision. I'm Randy Reed. The City of Fresno has put a strong emphasis on making the downtown area a more vibrant destination for entertainment, dining, and other activities. Most of those who visit downtown Fresno, of course, drive their cars and, as a result, are often faced with a different parking environment than they're probably used to. My guest on this edition of Fresno City Vision is Del Estabrooke. He's the parking manager for the City of Fresno, and it's his job to help downtown visitors understand their parking options, from metered spaces to surface parking lots and garages and everything in between. So Del, welcome to this edition of Fresno City Vision.
Good morning, Randy.
Nice to have you here.
Thank you.
Now Del, let's start off by acknowledging that many people cite parking as a reason they say they avoid downtown when they can. Why do you think that is? Is that true, and why do you think that is?
It's probably a little bit of unfamiliarity on their part. They don't visit downtown enough, but I can tell you this, I've been in the business now for almost 20 years, and almost all major cities have the same issues, the same good things, the same bad things as the City of Fresno. So it's my job to make it a little bit easier for the customer that's coming downtown, and once they see what our program's like, you know, they go away pretty impressed with what we've done so far.
Okay.
There's more to do, though.
All right, we'll talk about what is currently in place and what some of the future plans are as we go forward. But is there a disconnect for city residents? And we don't just talk about City of Fresno residents, because downtown attracts people from all over the region. But we live in a pretty suburban environment otherwise, and lots of big parking lots in large retail establishments and developments and stuff. And then again, when you come downtown, you're faced with having to pay for parking in a direct sense. But my understanding is that even when you go to a shopping center, you're really paying for parking, just in a different way. Is that true?
That's correct. It's a hidden cost. Whatever purchase you make, whatever, if you go to, say, a river park, you're paying for parking indirectly. It may be a few pennies, but you are paying for it. Maybe that shirt or those trousers or whatever you're buying is a nickel more. That's the reason for it. Somebody has got to pay for the lighting. Somebody's got to pay for the asphalt, the striping of the lots, and the security that's provided in the lots. So there is a cost.
Okay. And now, why is that same model not possible in a downtown environment?
Most of Fresno is a suburban area until you get downtown to the urban core. So what you have downtown is a lot of buildings that are packed with people, a lot of services. It's the government center of the San Joaquin Valley. So you have all these services down here in a very small contained area. You don't have a lot of acreage where you can just put parking all over. What you have is limited parking. People want to park close, hence it has to be controlled and enforced. That's the reason why it's a pay-as-you-go or it's a 2-hour zone, so that there's turnover parking for those people visiting an entity, you know, anywhere in the downtown core. Okay, so it sounds like what you're saying is if a new restaurant opens up in downtown Fresno, it's having to fit into an existing built environment, so they're not going to be tearing down a bunch of buildings in order to create a large surface lot that you might find in another part of town that was built later, or frankly may not even be built at this point in time. Exactly. That's exactly how it works.
And so all the parking requirements have to be shared really amongst all of the establishments that are downtown and by the individual patrons when they come downtown.
Okay. I try to do a little outreach whenever I find that somebody new is coming downtown. I try to meet with them and say, look, you know, here's the pro, here's the con, and try to work with them so that whatever business it is, it can be a success.
Okay, very good. We also have talked about the comparison of downtown Fresno to other urban areas, and I know you have a lot of experience working in big cities across the state. So how does Fresno's downtown parking environment compare to what you might find in downtown Sacramento or downtown San Francisco or other places where you've worked?
We'll talk about cost a little bit, but we'll just talk about the operation itself. In cities of our size, or in some a little bigger, most of their parking programs are 15, 16, sometimes 18 hours a day. Ours is but from 6 in the morning until 6 in the evening, Monday through Friday. We don't do any enforcement. Parking's relatively free on the weekends and on holidays and on nights, whereas in other towns, they're still charging up to midnight 7 days a week.
Okay.
So cost, if you look, we've done recent surveys, and we have a national company that does this. Out of about 50 cities recently surveyed, we're number 42, almost to the bottom. So our parking is relatively inexpensive.
On a cost basis,
On a cost
you're
basis,
saying?
that's
Okay.
correct, for daily parking. And even our long-term parking, those people who work downtown that buy a permit to park on a monthly basis, that is relatively cheap in relationship to other cities our size, especially in the state. We're almost at the bottom.
Okay.
So it's a pretty easy, when you got to pay for parking, it's pretty easy, it's pretty cheap here.
So if you go to those other cities, you have to travel to, again, Sacramento or San Francisco or whatever. The cost that you're going to pay in those cities is going to be, in most cases, higher than you're paying in Fresno.
Let me just give you an example. If you were to use one of our garages here and you spent 8 hours here, it would probably cost you a maximum of $9. If you were in downtown San Francisco, it would probably be $35 to $40 for that same day. And you're just parking in a parking garage and you're still looking for a service or you're visiting somewhere, look at that cost differential. A monthly parking pass here for somebody that's working downtown maybe costs you $80. Sacramento, it's about $260, and in San Francisco, it's closer to $400.
Wow, that is significant.
That's a huge disparity.
Also, let's talk about where those parking funds go. I mean, I want to make sure the public understands where those funds go. It's not just the city collecting general fund revenue. These are funds that oftentimes pay for infrastructure that allows us to help create a more vibrant and active downtown. Is that correct?
That's correct. And my division is self-funded. We don't get any taxpayer support from the general fund.
Okay.
All the money that comes in from the meters and from the event parking goes into the parking fund, and it goes towards putting new surface parking, new garages in, and a maintenance program. Everything stays with it, provides for our security, our electricity. So we're not making a profit at all. We just put it back into the system to hope that we can grow for future needs.
Okay. What is the capacity of parking in downtown Fresno? Is it easy to find parking when you need it?
And capacity-wise, I control, just for the city, about 7,900 parking stalls in either garages or at the meters. Excuse me. There's probably another 4,000 that are operated by private operators, people who own the buildings and have a garage or a lot. So, that's a lot of stalls that I manage.
Sounds like it.
The garages have been here for a long time. Most of them have been here since the 60s. So, and if you notice our system at one time, it was a one-way system. The garages were built on the one-way system. Well, now we have two-way traffic in downtown. So my advice to everybody coming downtown is follow my green and white parking signs. It'll get you to a parking garage or a parking lot that's hopefully close to your destination.
Okay, so that's good advice. So if you're unfamiliar with the downtown area and where parking facilities are located, surface lots, garages, and of course there are meters, which are pretty easily to spot because they're on the surface streets. But you've got signage all over downtown that directs you to where you can park. And do talk about the rates briefly. So what does it cost to park in a parking garage?
In a parking garage, it's $3 for the first hour and $1 for each hour thereafter, maximum at $9. Maximum at $9 for all day. At a meter, it's slightly cheaper. It's 75 cents an hour. Most of the meters here in the downtown area are the 2-hour variety. So, and you figure most meetings, an hour and 45 minutes and you're gone. But I do have some 10-hour meters out there for the people that want to park on the street and want to stay a little bit longer. And I also have some 30-minute meters out there for businesses such as your Subways or Starbucks that wants quick turnover parking. They want the customer in and out so the next person can come in. So, whatever the business needs, I try to accommodate, and I'll put in the meter that they request from me.
And that's an important point, especially with the meters, because there are the different time zones, right? As you mentioned, 30 minutes in some cases and 10 hours in others. So talk a little bit more about how you make those determinations.
Again, if it's a restaurant, if it's a government entity, any type of business, I'll try to meet them and see what their desires are. If you're coming to City Hall, your meeting, it may take an hour and a half, hence I have 2-hour meters. So I cater to the customer, what the customer wants, I try to accommodate them. Outside of the meters, I also have some time parking zones where I don't have meters, and that's the same scenario. If the business says, hey, most of our meetings are at the hour variety, well, then we'll put in a 2-hour zone for them to accommodate their customer. If they need a little bit shorter, maybe we'll put a 1-hour in for them. But again, I try to work with the customer. What they need, it's my job to see if I can accommodate them.
Okay, very good. We have just about a minute left in our conversation today. Del, what does the future hold for parking in downtown Fresno?
Well, I'd like to be able to have my parking set up so that when you enter any of the downtown major streets, there'll be some signage that changes, that tells you what garages, their location, and how many parking stalls are available. That's number one. Number two, I'd like to get away from the parking meters that I have right now, which are rugged and they stand up the test of time, but I'd like to put something in there more customer friendly that'll do credit card applications, debit cards, that type of thing. Just make it a little bit simpler on the customer.
Okay, very good. So we'll look forward to seeing some of those developments in the months and years ahead. Del, thanks for being on the program today.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate having you here. Well, for more information on parking options in downtown Fresno, including maps, rates, hours of operation, and special programs like a parking validation program that's available to downtown merchants, you can visit fresno.gov/parking. That's it for this edition of Fresno City Vision. For the City of Fresno, I'm Randy Reed. Thanks for joining.